The front page of the Daily Guide, where the finance minister came to show off his new green bag. It's a very nice bag, Ken. Economy to hit 1 trillion Ghana cedis, according to Ken Ofoyata, the finance minister. Also, a story about the 220 million Ghana cedis allocated for the Kosovo spillage victims. Major facelift for Tema Port. The president is holding some small block. Block. Yeah, pavement block. It's not a big one. The pavement block. He's laying it with some nice people on the front page of the Daily Guide.
Is he using trowel?
Let me see. No, he's just holding the pavement.
He's just holding
block.
the pavement.
Okay. Stop religious politics.
Yes.
Very, very important.
It's getting very, 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 very bad. I mean, the people doing it should be ashamed of themselves. From both sides. It doesn't make sense, please. We have been together for a long time without any trouble. Let not politics divide us to the point where we are creating those kinds of problems for religion in this country. It can't be right. The Ghanaian Times says this morning, presentation of 2024 budget, government to spend 226.7 billion Ghana cedis next year. And they are raising about 100 something billion. It's not up to. So there will be a huge deficit, if you look at it, to maintain macroeconomic stability and create jobs. And then also, we are told the president has received the MRE results on. You see, this thing I've been complaining about. You see, this story came in the newspapers yesterday. And now that we are seeing it, on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, for some reason, they almost always delay with some of these leading stories. Communities affected by Kosovo Dam, again, we are told they'll be given 220 million Ghana cedis in relief support. And then something too about businesses to benefit from tax relief in the 2024 budget.
I'll take you to the front page of the Daily Guide now. 2024 budget, tax cuts outlined to spur growth. Again, the finance minister is on the front page. But then there's also Dr. Kesela Tuforsin hiding on the right-hand side of the Daily graphic. He's speaking to the finance minister. Budget statement empty.
Yeah, he's giving them a scorecard.
Yeah.
The business finder, he calls it the bye-bye budget. Government targets 2.8% growth for 2024 by spending 226.7 billion Ghana cedis to accrue 61.9 billion Ghana cedi deficit. That's a lot of money. I'm not too sure what the calculations are saying. Also, improve infrastructure to boost African trade. Wamkele Mene is on the front page. And then government invested 32.7 billion Ghana cedis to keep the lights on, according to Furiata.
On the front page of the Business Analyst, government announces 8 reliefs in 2024 budget, including removal of taxes on locally produced sanitary parts. That's good. We are determined to maintain discipline to stabilize the economy. That's the finance minister. The Intra Development Association tells the government after Kakum Forest Boa, review LI 2462.
Okay. The Chronicle says Ghana's GDP to hit 83.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2024 and up from 56.16 billion in 2026, and the difference of 27 billion US dollars. Okay, so all the figures are actually in dollars. If I made any inadvertent reference to CD, please forgive me. Also, porous borders worry GIS, and IGP's leadership skills have really inspired me. The CJ is taking lessons from Dampare.
And the BNFT, Nathan, also carries the expected growth of the economy to $1 trillion in 2024.
Okay. And the Daybreak newspaper talks about graves. Cost of graves shoot up. I don't know whether it was in the budget. Usu going for 4,900 Ghana cedis. Awudome going for 2,600 Ghana cedis. And Gethsemane Memorial Park going for 47,000 Ghana cedis. Oh, cost of graves. It's not easy. Also, government scraps tax on sanitary pads. And then also some other stories, that including a stop press that says presidency director in conflict of interest next.
Okay, if you go online, citinewsroom.com, state funeral to be held for late Theresa Kufuor today. Yeah. So that's a bit on the sad side. Youth group skeptical about government's new promise on abandoned La General Hospital. Ricketts Hagan says there's nothing good to write home about 2024 budget.
Hey.
Okay, and in line with that, Ricketts Hagan is also saying we'll unravel 11 billion cedis worth of taxes hidden in 2024 budget. Other stories: 2 Jubilee House officers, GIS officer remanded for alleged robbery. And then some of the highlights from the budget: import duties on electric vehicles waived, taxes on locally produced sanitary pads removed. Okay. Now, if you go to the business page of citinewsroom.com, they would have a lot more on that. They talk about the 8 tax reliefs announced in the budget. Kenneth Foriata says inflation declining because we've turned the corner, and government to support flood victims with 220 million cedis. Plus, Angela Mensah-Poku leaves Vodafone Ghana with digital transformation legacy. If you go to myjoyonline.com, businesses will still struggle. Tax reliefs will benefit just a few. That's according to Guta. The tax reliefs in 2024 budget are highfalutin, according to John Jinapo. And the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry says the budget is not inspiring. And on the sporting side of things, Ampem Dakwa, they lost yesterday to Sporting Casablanca on penalties in the semis of the ongoing CAF Women's Champions League. On the international side of things, the BBC has Biden today. Says Biden mildly hopeful about Gaza hostage release. And it looks like every day the story takes a new turn. And US and China agreed to resume military communications. Very interesting on the diplomatic side of things.
Let me take you to
I suspect the budget will dominate.
And I'll start from the business analyst, because they itemize the 8 reliefs, and that's what people want to hear. That are in the budget. Then maybe Sky can give us some of the reactions to the budget. So on page 3 of the business analyst, the government has given 8 tax reliefs to reduce the burden of businesses and consumers. They are extending the 0 rate of value-added tax on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years, waiving import duties on imported electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years, and waiving import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana for a period of 8 years. Okay. The rest are extending 0 rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years, granting import duty waivers for raw materials for the local manufacture of sanitary pads, granting exemptions on the importation of agricultural machinery equipment and inputs, medical consumables, and raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry, as well as a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties. To address the negative externalities of plastic waste and pollution, Mr. Foriata said the government will review and expand the environmental excise duty to cover plastic packaging and industrial and vehicle emissions. Again, the Stamp Duty Act 2005 has not been reviewed since its enactment in 2005.
Well, there have been some reactions to the budget statement. Except, let me first of all do the Akosombo one before I go to the reactions, right? Okay. If you go to page 11 of the Ghanaian Times, communities affected by Akosombo Dam spill to benefit from 220 million Ghana Citi government relief support. Now, Lawrence Vomafa Akpalu reporting on page 11 says the government has budgeted an amount of 220 million Ghana cedis to provide relief support for the communities affected by the Akosombo Dam spillage. Now, although the spillage affected residents of North, South, and Central Tong District, the package also includes victims affected by the floods upstream in the Oti, Savannah, and Bono East regions for the restoration phase. Now, presenting the 2024 budget statement of government in Parliament yesterday, the Minister of Finance, Kenneth Foriata, stated that the government, through the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, would allocate additional resources to support the restoration of livelihoods in the communities. I don't know why the reporter limited himself to only North Tong, South Tong, and Central Tong. There are many more other, districts affected by this thing than the ones that he mentioned. But if you go to page 4 of the Ghanaian Times, 2024 budget is empty according to the minority. Now, Julius Yao Petichi, my good friend, says that the minority leader, member of parliament for Ejimako Inyam, Dr. Kessel Atoforson, says the budget as presented by Minister of Finance Kenneth Foriata is quote-unquote empty and does not address the pressing needs of the Ghanaian people. The quote continues and says, this particular budget is the true definition of an empty budget. Clearly, the MPP government has said goodbye to the people of Ghana. This budget is cruel, insensitive, and out of touch with reality.
It goes on to say, Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to note that this government is leaving behind a bankrupt, default, debt-riddled, overtaxed, high food inflation, high monetary policy rate, high lending rate, high unemployment rate, inflation, and misery economy. Misery economy. I think they want to say miserable economy.
Well, staying with reactions, the MP for Cape Coast South, George Ricketts-Hagan, says the Minority Caucus in Parliament will unravel the alleged 11 billion cedis worth of taxes hidden in the budget. Now, the finance minister presented the budget. He announced 8 tax reliefs. But George Ricketts-Hagan, who was speaking on Eyewitness News, says, quote, "We know that there's 11 billion cedis in taxes, but it is hidden. So we'll unravel it. In a couple of days, we'll unwrap it and show where they have been hidden. They have been disguised." That was the whole idea. So we have to open up. But as a counter, the Deputy Trades Minister, Dr. Stephen Amwa, refuted such claims and urged the minority to focus on tax reliefs that were stated in the budget.
Also, Professor John Kachi commenting on the projected expansion of the economy to hit a trillion Ghana cedis next year, says it's insignificant because it didn't translate into real growth in the critical sectors that drove the economy. He said the expansion in the size of the economy, or GDP, was always a given as it kept expanding year in, year out. Quote, "It's not about size, but how you have been able to manage the economy to provide jobs. What is expected of economic growth is to establish the cumulative jobs and opportunities it creates." He said despite enormous investments into the government's One District, One Factory initiative, the industry sector was growing at 0.9% last year and recorded negative growth in the first quarter of this year. Quote, "We should rather be worried that we are not managing well the sectors that will drive growth, and our industry sector is recording negative growth figures." And this is in an interview with the Daily Graphic on page 21.
Okay, if you go to the Finder, page 2 has a story. Government invested 32.7 billion Ghana cedis to keep lights on, according to the finance minister. If you're interested in that story, please grab a copy of the Finder and read that. But page 7 of the Business Finder has a story that says improve infrastructure to boost African trade. Now, Isaac Edu reporting from right here in Accra says to attract the much needed investments into Africa and boost trade on the continent, quote unquote, we need to improve infrastructure to connect people and markets. Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Secretariat, Mr. Wamkele Mane, has said. Now, according to Mr. Mane, quote unquote, Africa needs much more investments, not only foreign direct investment, but also domestic investment and government investment in trade-related infrastructure. He goes on to give you some other details.
Speaking of infrastructure, on page 6 of the Daily Guide, the Tema Port is receiving a major facelift. President Akufo-Addo yesterday commissioned 15 brand new state-of-the-art gantry cranes at the Tema Port. This is to enhance operations and increase trade volumes at the country's major port as part of the second phase of the port expansion project.
And then also we're told that Ghana Pay to hold fairs in 5 more regions before end of year. If you're interested in that particular space, please, page 13 of the Finder, the Business Finder has all of that. But the Chronicle has a number of stories. We're told that Akufo-Addo commissions $50 million gantries.
Yes, that's what I just
Yes.
You just read that.
Yes, that's the port story.
Anyway, and then also the Chief Justice says that he's taking leadership lessons from the IGP, who is drawing a lot of fire from some people who don't like him in Parliament. Now, page 2 of the Chronicle says that Benis Bese writes the story and says the Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokonu has commended the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, for his exceptional leadership skills, which is lifting the image of the police service. Now, she said, quote, "I must say that I have found your leadership of the police extremely inspirational. I think it is only a blind person who would not have noticed how much you have achieved in such a short time to rebrand the image of the police, to reinforce what ought to have known from the beginning, or what we ought to have known from the beginning." Maybe that's what you want to say. That the police is the source of integrity, the source of protection, the source of help rather than the source of distraction. And all of those are in quotes. Now, the Chief Justice made a statement during an engagement with the IGP and members of the Police Management Board in Accra yesterday.
Okay.
So this is a huge, while it's coming in from, it's a huge endorsement of what is happening, within the police service and things that we have mentioned in the past. But that is not to say that everything is uhuru there. There are still many problems that the IGP would have to deal with.
Okay.
But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's done something remarkable.
Okay.
Transforming the image of that institution.
Okay, if you go to citinewsroom.com, the Kofredia Circuit B or Circuit Court B has remanded into police custody 4 military men, an immigration officer, and a private security man for armed robbery at Achema Canteen in the Lower West Akim municipality of the Eastern Region. The accused person, Sergeant Mensa Dominic, Lance Corporal Tete Wayo. What's this?
There you go.
Oh no, since we're talking, you're talking about the problems. These are some.
Exactly.
Good. Now, so these gentlemen have been put before court. 2 of them work at the Jubilee House. So
can you imagine?
Have to do
The people work at the Jubilee House. I saw that story yesterday. I panicked.
Yes. It's on citinewsroom.com for those who are interested. And the
Well,
story, well written, it gives a proper, the full account of the story, the prosecution's case, and all of those things.
Well, it's still pendente later, but it's an unfortunate development that, a person or persons working at the Jubilee House, which is the seat of the presidency, will be accused of offenses like that.
Continue.
We'll see how the full trial goes.
Let me take you to Peter, the Daily Guide. Stop religious politics. The National Peace Council and their key partners, the Christian Council of Ghana, the Office of the National Chief Imam, and the Catholic Bishops' Conference, have expressed concern about how some persons are funding religious intolerance in the country in recent times. In a statement yesterday, the NPC said, quote, "You have observed with great concern some insinuations and publications on electronic and social media seeking to inflame religious passion into the 2024 general elections. As the national institution responsible for peace in the country, the NPC and our partners wish to remind all Ghanaians of the admirable manner by which we have lived together in peace despite our religious, political, and ethnic diversity." So some advice coming from the Peace Council there.
Okay, let's stay with the matter of religion because page 8 of the Daybreak newspaper has the photograph of the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, and the headline attached to that story is Chieftaincy Ministry drafts national policy on religion.
Okay.
The story says the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs has put together a draft proposed policy for directions on religion to protect the rights and freedoms of individuals regardless of their beliefs or non-beliefs. Named the National Policy on Religion, it aims to address the challenges and opportunities that arise from the coexistence of different faiths and beliefs in the country. It will provide a framework for the protection and promotion of the rights and freedoms of all religious groups, as well as the prevention and resolution of conflicts that may arise from religious differences. Now, already 16 regional stakeholder consultations have been scheduled to commence in the next 2 weeks as part of the process of reviewing the policy. Now, under the consultation, the country has been grouped into 4 different zones, and the zones are the OT, Volta, Eastern, Greater Accra. It's quite a lot. So if you are interested in the story, which is gaining a lot of currency because of the politics around, who becomes president next year, or is it 2 years from now? Yes. You should grab a copy of the paper and read it for it.
And finally, on page 24, from there's a bit of showbiz news about the president is involved. It says, reward actors appropriately. President Nana Akufo-Addo has urged players in the film industry, such as actors, actresses, and filmmakers, to ensure they reap the necessary benefits from the industry. Quote, "Too often, our renowned artists who entertain us and give us some of our best music, drama, and films have not been adequately rewarded financially."
I see.
You know, when I was in Freetown, I was a member of the drama troupe. We went.
And you were not paid?
No, by drama troupe, they don't mind you. I was providing leadership from the front. Entertainment prefect.
This is the Sunbreakfast Show.
I'll be looking like an old
City's
man.
biggest conversation.